Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we have a topic that deeply affects Mexico, Latin America, and the entire world: the recent victory of Donald Trump as President of the United States. This change in the leadership of one of the most influential countries brings with it potential impacts on the economy, migration, trade policy, and much more. Stay with us and get ready for an in-depth analysis of the 5 key points of the new Trump administration and what they mean for Mexico and our neighboring countries. Mexico and Trump's new tariffs. Donald Trump has promised a series of policies that could transform the trade relationship between the United States and Mexico. In his first remarks after winning the election, Trump suggested that he would impose a tariff of up to 100% on Mexican products entering the U.S. market. What does this mean? To understand it, we must remember that Mexico and the United States are key trading partners. Much of the goods manufactured in Mexico, from cars to electronic components, are destined for the U.S. market. However, with such a high tariff, the cost of these products would rise, affecting Mexico's competitiveness and making goods more expensive for American consumers. Trump has repeatedly stated that he wants to boost employment within the United States by encouraging companies to return and establish their operations in the United States. His strategy is clear: make American companies reconsider the viability of manufacturing in Mexico. Given the high costs that new tariffs could impose, for Mexico, this situation creates an economic crossroads. With a growing economy in the process of consolidating itself as one of the most important in Latin America, Mexico is faced with the dilemma of continuing to work with the United States or diversifying its foreign trade to reduce dependence on its northern neighbor. Is China a viable option? Is it time for Mexico to strengthen trade relations with other emerging powers? The commercial break with Ecuador. Another recent development that has shaken Mexico's foreign policy is the breaking of trade relations with Ecuador. Mexico has suspended its economic ties with Ecuador, due to what the Mexican government considers a direct aggression against its sovereignty. According to statements by the Mexican president, the Ecuadorian government has disrespected diplomatic laws by allegedly violating the integrity of the Mexican embassy in Quito. This led Mexico to cease all its exports of refined petroleum and other energy resources to Ecuador, which could aggravate the already delicate energy situation in the South American country. In Ecuador, power outages are frequent, and the nation faces an energy crisis with outages lasting up to 12 hours a day. The trade break with Mexico has increased the pressure on the government of Daniel Noboa, who will now have to find new oil suppliers to cover domestic demand. The relationship between Mexico and Ecuador is in unprecedented tension, and Ecuadorian citizens fear that this situation will have an even greater impact on the national economy. The conflict also raises questions about diplomatic stability in the region and whether Mexico should strengthen its ties with other Latin American countries or with new international powers. Argentina and Javier Milei, a new ally in the Trump administration. While Mexico faces these challenges, in Argentina, to the south of the continent, Trump's victory has been greeted with optimism. Argentine President Javier Milei sees Trump as a crucial ally for his country's economic recovery. Argentina is going through a financial crisis of historic proportions, and Milei has said he seeks a complete dollarization of the Argentine economy as a solution to stabilize the country. To achieve this goal, Argentina is estimated to need an injection of approximately $50 billion, and Milei is confident that Trump could help secure this sum. But this process of dollarization, while promising stability, is also controversial. Many Argentines fear that this would turn the country into an economic colony of the United States, depending almost exclusively on the economic decisions of the Federal Reserve and the American government. Trump's possible aid to Argentina is viewed with skepticism in some quarters, which point to the risk that the country will lose sovereignty and become an economic extension of the United States. For Mexico, this rapprochement between Trump and Milei could represent a change in the policy of regional alliances and a sign that the Trump administration could have particular economic interests in Latin America, migration and mass deportations. The impact on the Latino community in the U.S. Trump's immigration policy has also been a hot topic of concern for millions of Latinos in the United States. During his campaign, Trump promised a policy of mass deportations, stating that he plans to expel 15 million undocumented immigrants, mostly Latinos. Since his victory, there has been a surge in self-deportations, particularly in states like Florida and Texas, where anti-immigration laws already make life difficult for immigrants, the situation in states like Florida is particularly dire due to recent laws pushed by Governor Ron DeSantis, a strong ally of Trump, that criminalize the presence of undocumented immigrants in public spaces like hospitals and workplaces. This policy has caused thousands of immigrants, fearful of being arrested, to decide to return to their countries of origin or move to states considered sanctuaries, such as New York, California, and Chicago. This internal and external migration will generate a significant demographic change in the United States, impacting both families returning to Mexico and Latino communities remaining in the United States, who see this new mandate as a direct threat to their security and stability. Mexico's economic diversification. Is China an alternative? Faced with the risk of the United States imposing new tariffs and restricting trade relations with Mexico, the question that arises is Mexico prepared to diversify its economy and become less dependent on its northern neighbor? In this context, China has shown interest in strengthening trade ties with Mexico, even suggesting the possibility of a free trade agreement similar to the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, TMEC. China, the world's second-largest economy, represents a strategic opportunity for Mexico, as it could offer an alternative export market for goods and services. Through this possible agreement, Mexico could offset losses resulting from U.S. restrictions and consolidate itself as a key partner in the global supply chain. However, a rapprochement with China could also generate tensions with the United States, which perceives China's influence in Latin America as a threat to its own hegemony. In addition to China, other countries, such as Japan and Russia, have shown interest in collaborating with Mexico in terms of trade and investment. Japan already has a free trade agreement with Mexico, and Russia, in the midst of a policy of trade diversification, has expressed its intention to open new trade routes to Latin America. These countries could represent strategic alternatives for Mexico in a scenario where the United States imposes prohibitive tariffs. Mexico's role in the U.S. economy, who depends on whom. It is important to remember that Mexico is not only an important partner for the United States, it is an essential element in its economy. From manufacturing to agriculture, many American sectors depend on the products and labor that Mexico offers. Mexico, due to its geographic proximity and its productive structure, represents one of the most important sources of goods for the American market. American companies also rely on Mexico's low production costs to remain competitive. If Trump imposes high tariffs, American companies could suffer more than Mexican ones, as they would have to face higher costs in their supply chain. This, in turn, could trigger a price crisis for consumers in the United States and a loss of competitiveness against foreign markets. In this context, Mexico could maintain a strong position in trade negotiations with Trump, remembering that interdependence is mutual. The United States could face serious economic repercussions if it decides to abruptly cut its trade ties with Mexico. Where is Mexico's economy headed? The future of an emerging power. By the end of 2024, Mexico has been recognized as an emerging economic power in Latin America, and, with or without U.S. cooperation, its economic future looks promising. Mexico has managed to strengthen its industry, improve its infrastructure, and establish itself as one of the world's leading exporters. However, the Trump administration represents a challenge to this upward trajectory. If Mexico manages to diversify its economy, strengthen its trade relations with other powers, and adapt to the changes imposed by the new U.S. policy, it could consolidate itself as an independent economic power. The key is to take advantage of the moment and seek strategic alliances that allow the country to maintain its growth and protect its economy from the decisions of the Trump administration. Dear friends, we are at a critical moment in the modern history of Latin America and the United States. Donald Trump's victory brings with it challenges and opportunities that will transform political and economic relations in our region. Mexico, as an emerging power, has in its hands the ability to adapt, diversify its economy, and ensure a stable future, regardless of the policies of its northern neighbor. We not only face the possibility of tariffs and trade restrictions, but also the challenge of protecting our migrant communities and maintaining a firm role in the global economy. The question that remains is, where will Mexico go from here? Will it seek new strategic alliances or strengthen its relations within Latin America? What awaits us in the near future under a Trump administration, and how can Mexico find its own path toward more independent development? And here we will continue to cover every step of this story, offering detailed analysis and updates on how these changes will affect Mexico, Latin America, and the Latino community in the United States. We invite you to join us on this journey of uncertainty and transformation. If you like this analysis and want to stay up to date with the changes coming, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell. Here at my channel, we will keep you informed with the most up-to-date and reliable information on the issues that impact our region. Give this video a like and share it with your friends and family so they can stay informed too. Do you have any opinions on the future of Mexico under the Trump administration? Leave us your comment below. We want to know what you think. Until next time, and thanks for being part of our community.